All right, thank you for staying with us. We'll go to our papers now to look through the headlines. And I will begin with the Nation newspaper. The major story here says Tinubu subsidy removal exchange rate regulation may cause initial hardship. Nigeria's economic security problems not peculiar. President Buhari is speaking. And we have some other stories here. At the top right corner of the paper, we have fresh poses as Sirika unveils Nigeria airplane. Aircraft did not undergo pre-arrival inspection by NCAA. Buhari knocks opposition for false 2023 polls narrative. Conducts a president-elect on State House tour. Gunmen set monarch ablaze, kill deputy in Imo. Abduct another Catholic priest, killed trainee doctor in Ebonyi. Armed robbers snatch $11 million from Ogun businessman. Shetima's nomination, you're meddlesome. Interlopers Supreme Court snaps PDP, throws out case against Vice President-elect, alleged double nomination. Court dismisses suit challenging Tinubu's age citizenship, fines petitioners $70 million. Those are some of the stories on the front page. But we have some stories from within that I want to take. Who has a story?
Yes,
here?
I have a story on page 20.
Right.
The headline says, concerns over rising case of child abuse in Anambra. And the story goes on to talk about, children being 7 years old, right, and 8 years old being abused. And it is important to state that the abuse in this case is the one in which people that were kept, as custodians over these children were beating them so much so that their eyes were bulging out, 7 years old and 8-year-old children, right? And there's even another picture of a baby that was abused, yes, that was abused, And the headline says that in Anambra, right? But we realize that these cases are all over Nigeria, but the story highlights Anambra in question today. And it says it was out of pity that we decided to send our little girl to her after she was delivered of a set of twins, which made it really difficult for her to cope. And that's like the scenario when it is that, you want to offer your child as a form of help to people maybe in Lagos that need, somebody to stay with.
Town, yes, in cities.
In the cities.
In return for some money to take care of the family.
Or some will say, we'll send her to school. But you don't know the details of what is happening to that child, right? And I felt it was important for us to highlight this.
Absolutely. That's another issue to highlight on a day like this, how some caretakers, as they are often called, you hand your children to them, they promise one thing or the other, but then they do not deliver on that. We have seen recent cases where a woman used, I think, knife or so on the child. Yeah. We've had several cases. It's an unfortunate situation.
Yeah, even in these papers, the pictures there are quite gory. Yeah.
I have another story here on the front, on the Nation newspaper, and it has to do with rescued teenagers, how notorious bandits forced us into marriage with blood covenant. And there were about 13 of them between the ages of 15 to 20 that the kidnapper kept in his custody. And he had a blood covenant with them, saying that if they tell anyone about this forced marriage, they will die. So, or if they report to the police about what is going on, they will die. And so they could not complain to their parents, because if they did that, he will go after their parents, their families.
He already manipulated
and then, kill their family. So they were afraid to do all of that, because the matter was reported to one of the representatives of the state, and he said that these same people have parents or policemen they can report to. They can report to this kidnapper, so to speak, notorious kidnapper, goes to the hospital to receive treatment for bullet wounds. How is it that the doctors are not speaking?
Yeah.
These same persons, these ladies that have, because the lady in question that was interviewed she's pregnant for the third child. She already has 2 kids for this guy. and that you go to a hospital. How is it that you are not talking to the doctors to tell them this is what is happening, and then they can report to the authorities? So there's already a blood covenant. So he has manipulated their minds. It's an unfortunate situation there, and we hope that the needful is done with regards to that. Yeah,
I have another story, yes, on The Nation. It's an entertainment news on page 23 that says that the Oni of Ife was on a film set, right? And
as an actor,
it was an actor. It was an actor, yes. Okay. And the producer of this movie is Dotun Taylor.
Yeah.
And I just like the versatility of the Oni of Ife. He's an entrepreneur on so many levels. And seeing this again, saying that it was on a film set, I look forward to seeing the movie.
He was on a skit at some point.
In fact,
did he just appear, or he actually took?
Well, the story says that it was on a scene, right?
You're looking forward to
I was living on that bar.
I'm just thinking, he must have had so many things to do.
Okay, so one quick story before we move to the next paper is this story. Gunmen set monarch ablaze, kill deputy in Imo, abduct another Catholic priest, kill trainee doctor in Ebonyi. So in Imo and some other southeastern states, the gunmen went on rampage, killing a monarch, and they have abducted a Catholic priest and a trainee doctor in Ebonyi. This is not the first time this is happening. It's just a sad situation with regards to security situation along those southeast states. We move quickly now to the Saturday Punch, and the major story here: court clears Tinubu for Monday inauguration. PDP Labour Party gear up for legal tussle. And some writers here says Supreme Court refuses to sack Shettima. High Court says age falsification suit against President-elect lacks merit. And to another story here: our parents struggling to feed us. Tinubu should improve economy. Children speaking, setting an agenda for the incoming administration. And another story here: risky pleasure, sex worker, drugs, robs businessman, victim blames wife. Nigeria airplanes flight, airlines vow to stop carrier. And then another story: Tinubu vows to kill corruption, seeks Nigeria's cooperation. Don't go with official vehicles, presidency tells ministers. And then another story here: women shouldn't share bills equally in relationships. An actress speaking, Choma Okoronwo.
Okay,
right.
I have a story in the newspaper, the Punch newspaper, and it says, risky pleasure, sex worker, drugs, robs businessman, and then the victim blames wife. So
for his predicament.
Exactly.
That's an interesting one.
Oh my goodness.
So this guy, he's a businessman, and he had some financial issues, and then he's been through a divorce, and then he got married to another woman, and then his business picked up at some point, only for his nieces. He felt betrayed by his nieces. Even his wife was stealing from him at some point. So he felt the
Who took his wife from him?
What?
You said his wife was taken from him?
Yeah, his wife was stealing from him because his nieces and his staff were stealing from him. So he thought to involve his wife, to monitor, only for the second wife to be stealing from him. So that kind of gave him a lot of emotional trauma. And then he decided to seek solace in... So he went to lodge in a hotel for like 2 weeks. Like, he took a getaway. But then he was bringing in different girls. But this particular one decided to, steal from him. And then from the girl's story, she said that they had been dating, although they had met on a pay-as-you-go basis, but then they became close. And then he promised her marriage. She had aborted for him twice, and he wasn't doing anything significant for her. So that was the only way she could get something significant out of him. So the wife...
He laid the foundation for what he got at the end of the day, from what you're saying.
Yes, because he's not saying if he had not had those issues with his wives and, businesses, then he wouldn't have, found himself in that situation. I think he took some responsibility for it, but then he's blaming his wives for it, for sending him out. It's a very interesting story.
Obviously.
Then there's another one right there in the Punch newspaper. All the virgins are extraordinary humans. So, there's this relationship coach who she got some letters from a 33-year-old woman and a 27-year-old woman claiming to still be virgins but are struggling to find a man, to marry them or go into a relationship with.
Is it because of their status?
Well, they're just finding it difficult. So they're thinking, oh, one of them said, I have kept myself, I'm a Christian, and then there's another friend of mine who got married at 25, got married to the best man, yet she wasn't as pure as I have kept myself. What should I do? Should I just go with anybody that comes my way? And then the woman is advising, which actually makes sense, that while you're waiting for your spouse, it is, this is the time that you need to actually build yourself. This is the time to, ensure that you are actually in the right place mentally, financially, to go into a marriage. Because what if God is preparing you, for the marriage, to ensure that you are actually stable? You don't just go into a marriage without having all the...
Don't be pressured to go into marriage.
Exactly.
That's the most important aspect.
Absolutely.
Do not allow any circumstance pressure you into marriage. That's where I'll leave it. I won't push for that. We need to quickly go on a break. When we return, we'll continue looking through the newspaper headlines. Just stay with us. All right, thank you for staying with us. We're still looking through the newspaper headlines, and I'm going straight now to the Saturday Sun. And some major stories here. The Aisha Buhari exclusive, My Life as Buhari's Wife, First Lady, is speaking. Why I criticize some of my husband's policies openly. My personal assessment is that Buhari fulfilled 50% campaign promises. What I will miss in Aso Rock. All the details you'll find there. And to another story here, Tinubu's inauguration, lobbyists, others take over Abuja, airfares go up, hotels packed full, tight security in metropolis. Another story, May the 29th, Supreme Court dismisses PDP suit, clears Tinubu Shettima for inauguration, slams 2 million naira cost against opposition party. Buhari, I can't wait to return to Daura on Monday, chides opposition parties on 2023 polls. Anambra health centers where humans share facilities with snakes. Gunmen kill Imo monarch, traditional prime minister. AE photo student shot dead in Ebonyi. Who has what story here? Do you have it?
Yes, I have a story on page 23.
Okay.
And it says that NAFDAC destroys fake products from Southeast, South-South, worth 4 billion naira. Right? And Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, who is the DG of the agency, she's the current DG of the agency, says that, these fake products have been in circulation over time. And I remember that this Professor Mojisola Adeyeye, she's also as Professor Dora Akunyili. And I'm in that space, so I know the details of what, has been going on in NAFDAC. And the story goes on to say that the products are antibiotics, antihypertensive, anti-diabetic, and aphrodisiacs, and some other products like that. And imagine if these products have gotten into the market, and then people trying to treat, so for instance, hypertension gets this type of product. And only God knows what can happen eventually when they take in
the heart of men.
Two things. If there's no thriving market for these products, people who are in this business will not continue for it. Now, get my point.
Okay.
Let me not. Now, for those who there are those who cannot afford medication for hypertension to treat it because maybe they do not have the medical cover where they can get this medication. And then for aphrodisiacs, we understand that there are those who want to quickly get things done, and you go for all of those aphrodisiacs to still feel that they have the strength and all of it, not knowing the adverse effect on their health. And there are those who self-medicate. They feel, okay, because I'm having a headache, let me just buy one medication and all of that. We know that out-of-pocket treatment is quite expensive in this part of the world. That is why a lot of persons would rather do that than go through the right channel.
But
yes, I'm not making excuses for them, but I'm just saying.
Someone would intentionally go and buy a fake drug just because they cannot afford it.
Do they know that it is fake?
They don't know.
They do not know.
So the
suppliers,
the victims here. So the people who are actually bringing those drugs
into
the
and
market
supplying pharmacies.
Yes,
absolutely. I agree with you, but I'm saying it is because they found a thriving market.
The pharmacies that actually, because they have a way. Yeah, they have a way to verify if that product is genuine or not.
Yes.
So if you're a pharmacist and a supplier brings drugs to you or products to you to sell, it is your responsibility to ensure that those products are actually genuine. Because
you know how they package some of these things?
Yes, properly, neatly. That they
so there are channels to find out
responsibility to go straight to the source.
The authenticity of some of this medication. That is why NAFDAC is there.
Yes, so that's what NAFDAC
does. But some of them do not want to go through those processes. They are
as a regulatory agency.
So there are diverse dimensions to this conversation. They found a thriving market. They want to cut corners. They have victims. But then, who do you still blame at the end of the day?
And they do not even sell these products at very cheap amounts. They sell it at the same price that the original ones are being sold for.
Some are sold cheaper.
Even some have the same name. You probably cannot even tell the difference between them. And I see videos.
There's always something to differentiate both the original and
some maybe have scratch cards to say confirm if it's original or not, and some don't. But how many people would actually take the time out to check those things?
You should. Like you should.
I even see videos, some NAFDAC videos whereby they would store these products in a warehouse, dark warehouse. NAFDAC is breaking chains, breaking doors, going in to actually burn off those medications.
Why would anyone want to do that to a fellow human?
I would love to quickly take the story on Anambra Health Center, where humans share facilities with snakes and all of it. The situation, if you look at the picture here, it's quite a sad one. And despite the money is being spent on healthcare, we are still seeing that the state of healthcare in the country, like we were talking about earlier on, is still at very sad situation when it comes to our healthcare facilities and the situation. It is just in a dilapidated state. And so some of these persons have to turn to traditional birth attendants. And some of them, because they are not well trained, some of the victims or those who are patronizing them now get HIV and any other disease because of the situation of the health facility in that state. We'll move quickly now to Saturday Vanguard. And the major story here, it's Jagaban o'clock. 7-time bombs for Buhari. Outgoing governors, legacies, failures. Unveiling the new NGF chairman, Abdulrazak, why Tinubu can count on his support. 27-year-old palm wine tapper rapes 80-year-old grandma to death. 80-year-old grandma to death.
How did they God?
It's a sad one. And then Osasi Udaro goes emotional again on stage. Diezani Islam's 100 billion naira defamation suit against EFCC says, I had aggressive breast cancer, did 2 operations. Supreme Court refuses to stop Tinubu's inauguration, says PDP suit against his eligibility lacks merit. Buhari takes him on tour of Aso Rock. You find all that story on all these stories on the front page of the Saturday Vanguard. Who has what story here?
I have a story there. So the headline says, North Korea sentences toddler to life in prison camp after parents found with Bible.
Wow.
And the story says, a 2-year-old in North Korea has been sentenced to life in prison after the toddler's parents were found with a Bible. So in North Korea, you are not allowed to practice any religion. They are atheists. So it's been out there to say it is a law that you must not be a Christian. You must not be found with a Bible. And even children in schools are encouraged to tell on their parents that to tell on their parents if they're practicing a particular faith that is not in line with the policies of the government. So a lot of times, some parents even hide their religions from their children because, you know, kids are very innocent. You know, if you ask them, they just tell it as it is. So sometimes they have to hide so that they don't, you know, get sold out by their children. And this story says at least it is thought up to 70,000 Christians, up to 70,000 Christians have been thrown in prison because of their beliefs since Kim Jong-un took to power out of a possible 400,000. It's a nightmare in North Korea. You don't want to visit.
Absolutely.
You do not want to visit.
It's really a sad situation. But let me quickly touch on the story of the 27-year-old palm wine tapper who raped 80-year-old grandma to death. He was brought before a magistrate court, and he denied it. He said that the family of the woman was looking for her, and he found her cutlass and phone, so he was trying to return them to the families who were looking for her. According to the report, he tied her to her bed and raped her to death. I am wondering, what were you thinking? Carrying out that kind of brutal activity?
If he is guilty, then something is wrong with his head.
He needs to be examined.
He needs to be examined.
Not normal.
Anyway.
Because an 80-year-old woman...
Then let's quickly move on. It's a sad story. Saturday Tribune. I am desperate to exit power on Monday. Buhari is speaking. That's one of the major stories there. President's wife, Aisha, demands pension for ex-first ladies. Abacha's widow relieves life as soldier's wife. Supreme Court clears way for Bola Tinubu's inauguration. Makinde signs Oyo Chief's law amendment bill. Why I immortalize executed cupist Gideon Oka. Governor Otom speaking. Musicians, actors ask President-elect to hit the ground running. Baba Wande, there is indecency in Nollywood movies because Nigerians buy it. Everybody loves Baba Wande.
Yes, I love Baba Wande.
Who has a story here? Do you have any story here? Well, there are some stories we cannot touch as it stands, but he's saying, Baba Wande now, talking about Baba Wande, he's saying that the level of indecency, it seems people enjoy watching the level of indecency in the movies. That is why people patronize the movies.
Even Nigerian movies, I see some Nigerian movies and I'm like,
is this Nigerian?
When did this occur?
Yeah, I think there's been a Western influence. Oops, sorry. I think there's been a Western influence, and so. But then, if it sells, it's I don't know.
But that is what it is being reported to be affecting our morals as it stands, because people watch and learn, and they feel that this is the standard. Sure. If it is done this way, then that is what it is. And so it is affecting us in every sphere as a country. But this is where we're
that's why the movies are rated, though. A lot of these movies are rated.
But how many people?
PG-18.
How many people stick to those ratings?
People don't. Especially, you know, sometimes you probably think that if I watch a Nigerian movie, it's safe for my children. I mean, then, now, you can't even try it. You have to watch it first before
you allow your children. All right. We'll have to wrap things up now. We'll go on a short break. When we return, we'll move to our hot topic. Stay with us. We will be right back.